Kev here from Prompt Parts. Today we're going to go through American Bosch or starter motors that would be commonly used on traditional American outboard motors like Mercury, Johnson Evinrude, Mariner, etc. We're going to show you some basic troubleshooting of pulling starter motors to pieces, looking for faulty components on the parts or worn parts that need to be replaced. So this is the engine that we're going to remove the starter from, and we'll go through the process of going through that starter motor on the bench. So we've removed the starter motor from the engine. We've taken all the fasteners that hold it together, hold it on the engine. We've brought the starter motor in. Before we disassemble it, we're actually going to wash it up because we don't want to contaminate the work site. So we'll go through the parts of the starter that we're looking at. This is pretty typical of a starter motor that's done a lot of work, and we've got several parts to the starter motor. We've got the through bolts that hold the assembly together. We've got the outer housing. This is a permanent magnet type of starter, so we've got magnets in the housing. We're making sure that they're not cracked or broken. They make a big deal about do not strike with a hammer or hard object. Doing so can debond the magnet from the housing or crack it, and that'll certainly affect the performance of the starter. The end cap, or the brush end cap of the starter motor, as you can see there, we've got our brushes. We've got the springs that hold the brushes in contact with the commutator end. This is the armature, it's the commutator end, so we're looking for any overheating of the wires. We're looking for excessive wear on the commutator end. In this instance, this is just really old and dirty. We see we've got some corrosion built up around the end cap. That's going to affect connectivity to ground through the housing, so we need to make sure this area here is clean, so where it contacts the housing. We've got the bush inside the end cap that supports the armature. We want to make sure that that's not excessively warm. And the top end cap, we're looking for, it has a bush that it needs to spin, so we're making sure there's not excessive play there. And then we're going to remove the starter Bendix gear. Starter Bendix gear operates on that helix there. We want to make sure that it's not excessively warm. This has a clutch hub inside it that cushions the effect when it contacts the the flywheel. So very important that we don't have solvents and lubricants impregnate themselves inside that clutch hub. Otherwise, you'll get some slippage, and that's just something that we don't need to happen. And there'll be some little thrust washers in there. We just want to make sure we put everything back in the same condition. You can see one of the issues with this is it's wet. It's been getting, someone's been putting too much oil on it. The oil has probably affected the brush end cap. That will burn the brushes away faster. So now we'll take the brush holder and the brushes out of the end cap. I'll just put it in the vise. You can see how much debris inside there. That's just the waste from the brushes over time, and it's definitely been contaminated. Someone's been spraying some sort of dewatering fluid on the engine, and it'll always migrate into the inside of the starter motor. Around the housing, you can see there's a certain amount of corrosion there that's stopping connectivity through the housing. So we'll go through the parts, make sure that our bushes aren't excessively worn. We can already see the brushes are well worn away. They should have a little new set of brushes will have a bevel on that edge. Any time the bevel's worn away, that's an indication that the brushes need replaced. But you can see the brushes really look saturated and they've been contaminated. So we've got the starter motor disassembled, we've got all the parts separated out. Now we want to clean them up so we can check to see what's still serviceable and what needs to be replaced. So we've cleaned the parts up and we've decided now that they're in a clean state, we can actually check their serviceability to see what needs to be replaced. Clearly the brushes are absolutely worn out. They're really crappy. So we've got a new sample brush against the original brushes, and you can see the surface is well worn away. We've lost our beveled edge on there. So we're definitely going to be replacing the brush with a brush kit. Brush holders in good condition, it's not distorted or out of shape. We've cleaned up the housing, cleaned up the ends, the end caps. We just need to check the condition of the bushes to make sure that we haven't got excessive wear in either of the end caps. It's pretty normal. Nothing really bad to see there. The starter Bendix drive, this is a pretty key part. One of the things that we often see is the owner, in an effort to protect his asset, he sprays lots of dewatering fluids around it, and that's the enemy of the starter motor. It should go nowhere near it. That's a starter drive, so when it engages the flywheel, it's got a rubber clutch in it. Any dewatering lubricant that gets anywhere near there will always end up around the starter Bendix, and that'll cause loss of drive, so we don't want anything there. So we're pretty happy with most of the parts. We've got it super clean, we've got no oil contamination, and we're going to go ahead and reassemble that starter motor. The armature is the key part of it. We're looking at the commutator end, and if that was well worn away, we may want to look at resurfacing that in a lathe, but this one's pretty good. All we want to do now is make sure that we don't have any connectivity between the commutator end caps, commutator faces, and the body of the armature. So we do that. We use an ohms meter. We set it to ohms. If we got a result like that, what we're testing, that would be a bad result. So we basically, between the shaft of the armature and either these segments or parts of the winding, so there we can see the resistance through the winding, so we don't have any direct shorts to ground. So that basically telling us the armature is going to see another day. One of the things is there's certain parts in the starter motor that need some lubrication, and the important thing here is that we don't get any cross-contamination, that we don't get that lubricant in a place in the starter motor where we don't want it to be. And the place that we don't want it to be is on this brush end cap area. Anything in that area there will cause the brushes to burn. So very important that any that's anywhere near that, we're very spuriously using a lubricant. That's the end cap assembled. I'm going to take the brush loader that we have here to load the brushes so they can be installed on the starter. So there we have it. We have the end cap with the brushes installed. loaded, ready to assemble on the starter. There's location points on the housing. You can see there's a mark there that lines up with the mark on the end cap, and at the bottom we have a mark here, and that needs to line up. Just slide the brush loader out. Now that we've got everything aligned, the bolts should line up with their location in the bottom end cap. We just remove that and the brushes will all slide into position. Right. We've assembled the starter. Now we're just going to bench test it just to make sure that it runs up, and then it can be mounted back on the engine. So it's a bench test. We see it's sending the starter bendix out. It's cranking up. It's not a load test, but it'll go back on the engine, and we can go from there. The starter motor's good to go. So we've got our starter motor ready to go back on the engine, and what I wanted before that happens, I just wanted to go through a couple of the design features that vary and just show the importance of adding lubricant to certain parts of it, or spraying it with an anti-corrosion spray, how it can affect the performance of the starter motor. So there's two types of starter bendix. There's one with an enclosed clutch in it, and there's one with an exposed clutch, and this drives up on the helix of the starter bendix, and it relies on the rubber bush to cushion the gear when it engages the flywheel. But any lubricant on this starter helix can contact the friction face of the rubber cushion, and that will immediately cause it to slip. And that's what's happened in this instance. This starter bendix has failed because you can see lubricant has come out onto the friction surface, and obviously you don't want lubricant anywhere near any sort of a friction surface. So key to where you put lubricant, and make sure it's well and truly away, and sprays aren't put in after. So that's all I've got to say about the American Bosch style of starter motor, commonly used on a lot of old American engines. Thanks for watching. So for any more information that you want, go to promptparts.co.nz.